Kindy Rockstars. Prepare for a treat, let's meet and greet some bands and singers that are super sweet, making music that's fun for boys and girls. Help them learn about this great big world. Fun for the family, yes it's true, your kids will love it and you will too. Clap and dance and sing aloud, become a part of the Kindy crowd. These songs will make you move your feet and give your ears a great big treat. So settle in, grab your guitars, and let's get to know our Kindy Rockstars. Hello everyone, and welcome to Kindy Rockstars. This is the show that gives you the stories behind the songs from some of the best bands and singers that are making fun, informative, educational, catchy, and occasionally silly songs for children and families. I'm your host, Patrick Adams, and each episode of Kindy Rockstars will feature an artist and a featured song. So let's get to this week's show. Hello, everyone. Joining me tonight from Ontario, Canada, is the Relative Minors. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We're happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got into Kindy music.
Sure. So we're both musicians. We're married, Kirsten and I. And we've been musicians for many, many years. Kier studied piano and vocal from a young age. And I was in a bunch of indie rock bands, ska, punk, folk rock bands through high school and beyond.
He played in a band with my brother, which is what kind of drew us together. He was the drummer in my brother's band.
Yeah, music.
Older.
Music brought us together, for sure. And then when we were newlyweds, I don't know if you want to take it from there.
Yeah, sure. We didn't have a lot of money. And we were musical. So for every birthday or Christmas, we would just record a song for our families or friends. And when our niece turned 3 years old, we decided we'd write a full-length garage band album for her of children's music. And that was our gift to her.
Yeah. So she was the first child. Well, Kirsten's a teacher, so she knows lots and lots of children now, but she was kind of the first child that we had a super close relationship to as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought, oh, maybe we'll try writing some children's songs. Doesn't seem too hard.
And we had a lot of fun writing it.
Yeah, and it was hard, but as people know, when you get into this, it's not as easy as you expect it to be to just,
Mm-hmm.
But we wrote a 8-song kind of demo CD just with GarageBand. And they were just kind of funny, catchy songs, and our niece really enjoyed it.
She really loved them. We ended up passing the CD along to different friends of hers, and she actually asked us for her 4th birthday to perform live for her and all her friends.
Yeah.
So we had CDs ready to give out as well.
Yeah, and we kind of started to catch on a bit, I guess, in our town. We started playing at, the word got out a little bit. We started playing at some birthday parties. There's this local music festival. We started to kind of headline the children's portion of it. We played at preschool, at a library, and things like that.
Yeah.
We found that maybe we have a little bit of a knack for this.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then I transitioned from teaching grade 1 to being a music teacher, which it's just my passion. And I'm so glad that we've kind of taken off in that direction.
Yeah. So we kept it, we actually started, we did that for probably 5 years. And then we had our own first child. And so the music career kind of went on the back burner for a little bit. And then finally, when our kids were old enough, we started showing them the old songs. So all this first part of the story happened around 2011. So already 11 years ago now, I guess. And then by like 2019, our kids were like 4 years old. 4 and 2 sort of thing, and they enjoyed our old songs. We're like, hey, maybe we should get this.
We could listen to them objectively to say those are good songs, but they are not recorded well. And at this point, we did have some money, so
yeah, we kind of had established our careers a little bit. So by that point, we have a brother-in-law who's a great drummer, so we started kind of putting a band together, and we got into the studio in 2019 and started working on our first real album, Play Music, which came out in fall 2020.
Mm-hmm. I believe all of the songs on our first album, no, maybe there were a
think all but
couple,
one.
all but one, the title track, Play Music, was written 10 years before. So it was
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
So we had this kind of 20 song back catalog that was just kind of sitting. And then we're finally like, oh, these songs are worth doing something with. So we kind of gave them new life, and they were the most part of our first album, and then our second album as well included a lot of those old songs. And now we've been writing a lot of new stuff as well, which has been a lot of fun.
Have you gotten your kids involved at all in like the recording process? Are they at that age yet?
They've been to the studio with us. We pack snacks, we pack all of their games to play, and they're on the floor in the studio while we're recording. And we've got some really sweet pictures of them looking at us in the booths and things like that. And
yeah, the boys up against the glass looking at their mom.
Both our boys have been in music videos too.
Yeah, they've both been in music videos. JJ, our 6-year-old now, he's learning the violin. So before too long, I'm sure he'll be performing right there with us. Wes is more of a dancer, but we'll figure out a way to get that in.
JJ's gonna have a sample on our next album of a song that he's written.
Yeah, JJ's been writing his own songs, and they want to start their own band too. So they actually don't want us to use their ideas.
Yeah, it's true.
They're already little smart business people.
Yeah. So
I did actually try to take one of his songs, and he was having none of it.
Yeah. But we do test stuff out on them for sure. And now our songs will get stuck in their heads, and we'll say, okay, yeah, this is a good, this is a good chorus. And we should. Yeah.
Sometimes even Wes our 4-year-old might say, I don't like that song, but then we catch him singing it later.
Yeah, Wes had this phase where he didn't like the relative minors. No. Which is pretty funny, but kind of sad.
So you guys have been at this for a while. So did you find yourself having to switch gears quite a bit when the lockdowns happened and things like that?
Yeah, we were so excited. We finally put a full band together, and we were lining up shows. And like we said, we started in 2019 as a full band. What a year to pick.
Yeah. So we were really just kind of finding our footing, even though we had a catalog of songs that had existed for 10 years. We were just sort of finding our footing as a band, and we played a couple of concerts that fall. And then we had a bit of a tour, like a libraries tour booked for the summer of 2020, but obviously everything.
That went virtual. Yeah,
we ended up kind of doing leading up to the first album release, we ended up doing a virtual library tour where we kind of plugged into the online programs for a lot of libraries in
Ontario, yeah.
And kind of got our name out there that way a little bit, I guess, and connected with families and things.
Yeah. So what's the scene like in your part of Canada? I've talked to a couple of others in various parts of Canada, usually far east and far west. And I think I had one in Alberta, but what's it like there in Ontario?
It's the most populated part of the country. So there's certainly opportunities. The scene is not hugely developed. There are some really
big
great
names, yeah.
World famous even children's acts from Southern Ontario. Sharon Lois and Bram, and Splash and Boots now are the kind of the big name, and others as well. But
Sunshine and Broccoli,
yeah. So there's some good stuff going on, but it's kind of hard to pin down the scene currently.
It's also been hard to connect with them because of the pandemic, but we do connect with some of them on Instagram.
Yeah.
So how do you approach songwriting? Do you have particular themes that you like to write about, or are they just kind of general kids topics?
We're kind of all over the place. Sometimes a melody will come. Usually I start with a melody and I kind of feel around for lyrics that fit the melody. Matt usually starts with some sort of like comedic element or a joke. He really wants all of our songs to have some sort of funniness twist. Yeah. And usually that's the criticism he gives me when I write a song. He'll say, it's not funny enough. Yeah. Can I work on it?
Yeah. So the band has 5 official members, but Kirsten and I are the songwriters for the band, which is convenient because we live together. And we were able to keep making demos over the course of the pandemic. But we do, I guess this is totally hyperbolic, but a useful analogy. We kind of have a Lennon-McCartney thing where we'll both work on a song kind of independently, and then we'll come together and sort of like make it better.
But we joke that it's McCartney and McCartney because we both want to be
we're both Paul fans, but no, but yeah, well, I like Keir said, I like to start with sort of a funny idea, like a funny phrase. Like one of the songs was "The walrus ate all the bananas" was kind of a phrase that we saw, and or that someone said to us at some point. And I was like, yeah, that might turn into a song. So then I try to sort of back write a scenario that would lead up to that. And so I came up with this grocery store that animals go shopping at and things like that. And then on our new album, I came up with a chorus for a song about an aardvark who becomes prime minister, the song Aardvark PM. And so I had to come up with a scenario again.
That's our president.
Yeah. Yeah. So
for you listeners at home.
Yeah, so I had to come up with a scenario where an aardvark could be elected president. So I came up with, they extended the franchise to plants and animals. So plants and animals could vote, and then this is what happened. So that's kind of the way I go. We both very much start musically from like kind of an interesting musical concept and then build on that. And then the two kind of meet up at some point, some sort of topic meets up with some sort of musical idea. And then we kind of build the two together, but there's no formula. I'm sure lots of people say the same thing. There's no like strict formula that you follow, but we kind of.
And when we co-write a song, we work differently than if we were writing it individually too. Although sometimes one of us will start with a seed of a song, and then we'll sit down together and flesh it out together, stretch it out. Those are always fun to do too. Yeah. So the two songs that we're doing today are examples of, one is a Matt written song and the other one is a Keir written song.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into those then. So we got two songs we're going to do. What's your favorite season and what goes around? So go ahead and get into the stories behind those two.
Sure. So we chose those two songs specifically because the story kind of starts together and then they kind of break into two songs along the way. But so we were working on Play Music, our first album, but we already had all these songs for our second album, our follow-up album, which we ended up calling The Full Circle. We had a cool intro and outro song that the outro loops back into the intro. So the album itself kind of is a circle and an endless loop. So we had that as kind of a loose theme. Like we like to have loose concepts, not like a concept album necessarily, but sort of a loose idea. And so we wanted to write some more songs. Now that we were kind of getting into writing new songs, we wanted to write some more songs that had that as a bit of a theme.
The theme. Yeah.
So we thought we were actually just jamming around, the two of us, and we were playing around with the idea of a song about the seasons. We didn't have any real musical ideas pegged down, but we were just kind of jamming on a little chord progression and sort of making jokes about the seasons. So I thought it would be really funny to have a song that a little bit of a banter between the two of us and starts off by saying what's so great about each season, but then gets a little bit cynical and says, but there's actually bad things about each season as well.
Cycle back.
Yeah, so this full circle idea. And I thought that would be a great idea for a comedy song. And then Kirsten started working on.
So I took that idea and I sat down at the piano and I tried to write our season song. And I generally, like piano is my first instrument and that's where I'm most comfortable. So I almost always write my songs from the piano. And I started writing the season song and I had the chorus idea of what goes around. And I thought I could talk about the seasons in the verses. So I pitched it to Matt.
Yeah. And I said,
it's not funny enough.
my typical criticism, but it's not just your song needs to be funnier. It's this song is so good that I don't even want it to be funny. Like the melody was so beautiful. And I thought we could just write some like nice poetic lyrics and it would be a great song. It didn't need to be funny, but I still really wanted to write a funny song about the seasons. So we ended up kind of taking that song in a different direction and just kind of coming up with these sort of poetic, kind of just playing around with the idea, a little more abstract of things that go around. We talked about bicycle tires and propellers and just traveling. I tried to use the word circumnavigate, but couldn't make it work with the rhythm. But then also in the first verse, we kind of had a little bit of maybe slightly tactless. We were writing during a pandemic, and we talked about. I wanted to use the idea of a song as contagious and a song kind of spreading, being catchy and spreading like a virus, which is maybe a little bit of a bad idea during a pandemic. But that's where the first verse came from, talking about when you're singing along with the catchiest song, it's got a contagious melody.
And our second singer comes in just after that. It's catching.
Yeah, so he sings along with Kier for the kind of the second half of the first verse to kind of build on that idea. And then we take it from there and we talk about a lot of things.
So I wrote the melody, verse, chorus, melody, outro. And I wrote kind of a skeleton of lyrics. I'm mostly songbook kind of writer, and Matt's mostly the lyricist. I usually start with some pretty good stuff, and maybe about 50% of it stays, and then Matt kind of adds to it. So a lot of the lyrics were kind of fleshed out by Matt. Chorus was
you wrote the chorus, and then I kind of stepped in and tinkered with the verses for a little while, I guess.
And for the ending, I really wanted, as a primary music teacher, I teach rounds in my classes, and I really like this idea of what goes around. I said, we have to have a round at the end of what goes around. So I just, for fun, went on the Wikipedia article about rounds and
the musical idea.
Yes,
rounds,
the musical idea of a round. And it specifically said that there aren't a lot of musical pieces in contemporary pop music that use the round. But one example is the Beach Boys, God only knows how I be without you. God only knows.
So if you're going to take inspiration from a pop song,
it's got to be the Beach Boys.
Almost can't beat that.
Yeah. Is a high aim.
Yeah. And then, I mean, one step further, we're singing around and we're saying what goes around.
So it just, the song kind of wrote itself at that point.
The song kind of wrote itself.
Yeah. So then after we had that song kind of put together, actually the very last song that we wrote for the album was What's Your Favorite Season? And
we sat with that for a long time.
Yeah, it took us a while to kind of nail down exactly. I knew I wanted to have a funny song. And we said that what goes around is kind of demonstrates Kier as a songwriter, these kind of complicated melodies and chord progressions and kind of flowing, kind of building from the melody and that type of thing. Whereas what goes around shows kind of like my punk rock background, where the verse is just like, what's your favorite season? Just kind of like a bit of a punk rock thing in the verses and simple chord progressions, but
I'm paying attention.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then, but then I always start with something kind of simple musically, and then I throw everything I can at it with the instruments. And since this was the last song for the album, and since we tried to kind of show different textures for each season, which ended up being each verse type of thing, it gave me the opportunity to say, oh, well, we already have a string quartet playing on the album. We already have a horn section playing on the album.
They're coming in. We might as well put them to use.
So, and Mark can play the banjo and all this type of thing. So we just kind of threw, I think ultimately 13 musicians play on that song, which is the most on any of our songs. So that was a lot of fun to arrange, and
we really wanted to have each of the verses, each of the seasons really feel like those seasons. So we brainstorm what kind of instruments take on the feeling of fall, or what kind of instruments in winter.
Yeah, so for the spring, we tried to have like this soft kind of organic sound. We had the pizzicato violins come in, and it's just kind of like building and sort of, I don't know, spring-like. We put some sound effects in with the rain as well and things like that. And then for the summer verse, it's just kind of a slammin' party, very bright sounding, and a little bit of like electronic stuff going on in the background, this real party feel. And then for the fall verse, we were thinking like apple farm, a little bit of a rustic with the banjo and everything. And then finally the winter, it's not really a verse, it's kind of more of a bridge in musical terms, I guess. And we just kind of went totally in another direction and tried to write. And actually my idea from that part was from some comedy films, specifically one that comes to mind that I've thought about in retrospect is the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin, where there's just this beautiful scene in the middle that's not funny at all. It just stands out, and it's almost hilarious that it's just so beautiful. So we tried to kind of do something like that. We wrote this winter with all these major seventh chords and things like that, and just a very lush sound.
And that was an example of Matt wrote, he had the orchestration done for winter, but I saw his computer, it was just completely blank, and you see the little line flashing, and it had nothing for winter. And I think you were having a shower or something. And I just wrote the lyrics for the winter season. And he, like he was saying, he originally just wanted it to be beautiful. He didn't want the joke to turn at the end like the other seasons, but the ending that I came up with was just too perfect for him to turn down. So freezing cold winter.
So it's this beautiful description of the winter and crystals and everything like that. And then suddenly, but it's also quite cold, which kind of just like smashes us back into the chorus. What's your favorite season kind of.
Yeah, I love with everything that went into that song. At the end of the song, you still couldn't decide what your favorite season was.
Yeah, that's kind of our way a little bit.
All right, well, let's check these songs out. Here is What's Your Favorite Season and What Goes Around by the Relative Minors.
What's your favorite season? Tell me which and tell me the reason. Summer, winter, spring, or fall? Which one is the greatest one of all?
So here's the thing, I'm mad about the spring. When the sun comes out, the birds all sing and everything is so exciting. But then again, I don't enjoy the rain, and my allergies are quite a pain. So bring it back to the refrain.
So not spring then?
Let me think about it.
What's your favorite season? Tell me which and tell me the reason. Summer, winter, spring, or fall? Which one is the greatest one of all?
Life is very sweet when summer days bring heat. Popsicles and frozen treats, walking around in our bare feet. On second thought, sometimes it's too darn hot. Poison oak and noisy seagulls, and don't get me started on mosquitoes. Yeah, come to think of it, I'm just not sure.
Come on, here, I need to know. What's your favorite season? Tell me which and tell me the reason. Summer, winter, spring, or fall? Which one is the greatest one of all?
Forget the rest, the autumn is the best. It's changing leaves and pumpkin pies. It's Halloween and big surprises. Though I suppose if that's the one I chose, I need to add one stipulation: a mid-September school vacation. And then there's winter, glorious winter. Snow-covered hills, every crystal so unique. Beautiful blanket and white, snow angels made with delight. Wonderful, wonderful, freezing cold winter.
What's your favorite season? Tell me which and tell me the reason. Summer, winter, spring, or fall? Do you like just one or do you like them all? What's your favorite season? What's your favorite season? What's your favorite season? What's your favorite season?
So did we land on something or?
No.
Oh, okay.
When you're singing along with the catchiest song, you'll see it's got a contagious melody. It gets caught in your head and then it's starting to spread. You'll find it's going around like a CD. Hands on a clock,
When they tick and they talk,
tell us that the world keeps spinning.
round and round and round.
What goes around?
What goes around?
What goes around?
What goes around? Around, around.
Spin the wheels on a bike and go wherever you like. They'll turn into the propellers on a plane. There's so much to explore, the world's a rotating door. You'll learn the way to go The world keeps spinning.
Round and round and round.
What goes around?
What goes around?
What goes around?
What goes around? Around, around. What goes around?
What goes around?
What goes around? What goes around?
What goes around?
What goes around?
What goes around? What goes around?
What goes around?
What goes around?
What goes around? What goes around?
What goes around?
And that was What's Your Favorite Season and What Goes Around by the Relative Minors. All right, let everyone know where they can stream and download those songs and where they can find you guys on social media.
Yes, check us out on Spotify, or we've got music videos on YouTube.
Yep, we're pretty active on Instagram, so that's a good place to find us at the Relative Minors Band. And we also have a website at therelativeminors.ca, which has information, and you can
EPK, that kind of stuff.
buy physical CDs if you like to do that sort of thing. And yeah, that's us.
Excellent. Well, Matt and Kirsten, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks a lot.